Hey everybody, it's Josh with UberProAudio, and on today's show, we speak to Samantha Fish. Samantha is kind of a bluesy rock, hard rock, soul, R&B, just guitar assassin, and just an amazing vocalist as well. We talk about her new album, Belle of the West, which comes out November 3rd. And this is her second album of the year, which is crazy. Earlier this year, she released an R&B soul record called Chills and Fever, and it's so awesome. In the show notes, there's a link to a live performance of her covering I Put a Spell on You. And if this video doesn't make you fall head over heels in love with Samantha Fish, I promise you there's no hope for you. Just go hang your stuff up and just leave. It's over. I don't care what kind of music you listen to or anything like that. Like if this doesn't do it for you, there's no hope. Just give up. Just walk out the door. There's no hope. So big thanks to Samantha for taking the time to speak with us while she's on the road. She's currently on tour. Her website and everything, and where you can get the new albums, all in the show notes. So be sure to check that out. And yeah, just a really good talk about her coming up and her influences as a guitar player, how she's self-taught, which is awesome and super depressing for those of us who aren't that good at guitar. And yeah, enjoy. Cheers. Awesome. So let's just kind of jump into it. What got you into music to begin with? Being that you started as a drummer as opposed to a guitar player, what got you into playing the drums?
Well, I think, I grew up in a really musical household. My mom sang in church. My dad played guitar with all of his friends and his brothers. A lot of guitar players in my family, actually. So I kind of saw that there was a need for it, but nobody would play with me, so there's that. And I think that's why it was so short-lived. But, I started drums when I was 13. I think I just really fell in love with the physicality of the instrument. Every kid sees it. Anytime I see kids at the show, they're usually in love with the drummer just because, you're moving everything and you're making the most noise and the big physical movements. It looks like fun. So, I think that's really why I started playing it. And I just gravitated towards the guitar later on. But, I was 13 and taking lessons and not as disciplined as when I think back, like, damn, I could have been a really great drummer, but I was just a kid. So, but I think, that's just sort of where it started. And I like rock and roll, so I just wanted to kind of rock out on the drum.
Right on. So what pulled you from the drums to guitar? Was it like the influence of your other family members?
The ability to move around. I could leave the basement. Hang on just a minute.
Yeah.
I could leave the basement and play outside. I don't know. I was such a shy kid. I really didn't want to be out in front of a band. I think that's why I picked the instrument that was literally in the back. But when I started playing guitar, I started singing at the same time, and I really kind of come into my own with that. And it just kind of began there around 15.
That's crazy, because you made a pretty quick jump from starting to play guitar to your first album was 5 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, something like that. And I really just made that first record. Are you talking about the live one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just sort of a means to an end. I had to, I had to start. I was just playing around locally, and I kind of realized, I'm like, damn, I need to buy a van. Damn, I need to tour. I need to go to Chicago, and we need to tour. We need to start getting a sound, but I couldn't really afford it on the gig. So I thought if I put out a record and I have something to sell, then I'll be able to afford these things. And I needed to buy a PA system, all this shit. So I put out the record really as a money-making operation. And it worked. It definitely helped pad some of that. I didn't have to pull everything out of my pockets to do it. And so when I think about that record, I was so young, and I didn't know what I was doing. I just had a guy come out and record a show, and that was it.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a well thought out, wonderfully executed, song or album. I literally just put as many songs on the record as would fit on one CD.
But it was still it's a pretty hefty accomplishment given the amount of time that you had been playing, though, I would say.
Well, thank you. I don't even really think about that much, but that CD, it afforded me the opportunity to get started.
Yeah.
And really a lot of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing now, because we could actually do things that a lot of people couldn't do because we had some merchandise. We had a little help. So I know I probably have my record deal because of that CD. So I can't talk too much bad about it. So I hate it. I'll be honest with you. I hate that record.
I think that's kind of par for the course for most creative types. You kind of look back and you can always find flaws in it. So what got you? I mean, I spent the last 24 hours basically going over your entire discography and watching every YouTube video I could find on you. And
oh my gosh,
how did you evolve to a like melt your face off solo shredding guitar player? Like you just, I think you have a really unique style. Because one thing, sorry if I'm jumping around here a bit, but one thing I really, really like about you and your music is a lot of blues artists, specifically blues artists, tend to kind of stay constricted within the traditional blues genre, from album to album. At least that's what I found in my personal experience. And your last 3 albums specifically are so vastly different in tone and in songwriting and in recording styles that I love that there's a newness to every single record. That you can't find 2 of your songs that sound similar. Like, how did you evolve to a state where you felt comfortable doing, like a soul and R&B record, and then to, I've spent the last day listening to, I'm sorry, I have 3 album titles in front of me. Belle of the West.
Is it Belle of the West? Yeah.
And that's like almost a straight acoustic album, almost, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's a very like Americana, like chill vibe kind of record. And like, how is it a conscious thing that you're just like, I just want to try something different every time out?
Really, there's so much growth that happens between records because, whatever, it seems like, I'm sure, people watching, it's like a year and a half doesn't seem like a lot of time. But when you go out and you're playing these songs every single night, we're on the road and a lot is happening and a lot of stuff changes.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I'm growing a lot as an artist right now, and I feel like, we recorded Wild Heart. Belle of the West was kind of an evolution of Wild Heart because we spent some time in Mississippi on that album too.
Yeah.
So then when we went to Detroit to make a soul record, I'd done so many trio albums. I think I was up to 3 at that point, like trio-centered records, big guitar albums, and blues-centric. Wild Heart was a little more of a step to the left, where it was like there wasn't one blues song really on Wild Heart. It was all bluesy.
Yeah.
But I think that's when people started noticing that it wasn't a blue. We weren't a blues band. But then, to go and do Chills and Fever, it was just the right time to expand the band, and I wanted to do something that I'd never really done, which was focus on my vocals.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been working my ass off as a singer. But in a trio, it's like I kind of honed in on this more rock and roll approach.
Yeah.
And I didn't really have the opportunity. I didn't give myself the opportunity to stretch out and sing these, like dynamically and like a soul singer, which are the singers that I really gravitated towards when I started playing. I just never could do those songs justice because I didn't have the instrumentation to follow up the arrangements and make them as big and dramatic as I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So, really, it's like every record is it's just an indulgence, like the Belle of the West was me wanting to focus on the songwriter in me and like really let the songs shine. And, the guitar is always going to be there. I feel like I'm such a simplistic guitar player, that it'll fit into anything that we do. And there's occasionally we'll get a hardcore guitar fan who's wants this, they miss the shredding, and I'm like, I think the shredding's still there.
I would have to agree with you on that. Yeah.
I I think it's still there, especially Chills and Fever. There are a couple songs, but I don't feel like every song needs to be a barn burner guitar solo. I think, you know, if you play to the songs and try to honor that, you're going to have a much better album and really tell a bigger, broader story. But as far as the change, I mean, these are all just things that influenced me. Like coming up, I love soul singers, and, you know, I learned how to write music from country music and Americana, and and blues will always be in the guitar playing because I love R.L. Burnside, and I love, I love Howlin' Wolf, and Keith Richards was one of my first guitar heroes, and he he learned from those. Well, he learned everything from those guys.
Yeah.
From the old school blues guys, and so I mean, it's all just connecting those dots and telling a new story, but keeping it. You know, I feel like it's all consistent.
Well, and even to that point where you were saying, you know, I do think there is a just balance between the two, where, you know, good simple guitar meets great vocals. Like on the new record, honestly, I think my favorite track is Daughters. On like that.
Oh, you like Daughters?
That literally, and I'm honestly not just saying that. That stopped me dead listening to the album, and just I had that on repeat like 3-4 times. Like, I love that song. Good.
That was such a crazy, you know, I'd written that song to be different. I'm really thankful for my producer, you know, like Luther's got a vision for this kind of stuff, but, you know, it was him and CK, the drummer, put this like hip hop beat on it for the verses, and it kind of goes to a cut time on the choruses.
Yeah.
And I got recording it. I was like, this wasn't what I'd written. I'd like written some like totally generic train thing, you know, because it's kind of a country song. But they came in and we really just put the skirts on it. It turned out so cool. You know, I feel like it fit the mood of that song. I mean, I really had a great team of musicians in there on Belle of the West. You know, just like really creative and free-flowing people in the studio.
So what was the recording process like for it? Was it all like live off the floor, or?
Dude, it was so live. It was so live because I was recording with an acoustic guitar. So this is also new for me here too. I've never done an album where I was holding down an acoustic part on every single track. You know, I picked up an electric and do some soloing, but it was, you know, mostly it's a semi-acoustic record.
Yeah.
But when you record the vocals and the guitar at the same time in the same room, there is no overdubbing because, you know, you want to go back and overdub the vocals, you got to overdub the guitar too, and sometimes that just wasn't possible.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was a lot of things that we really just let sit because it's, you know, and that was something we just agreed on when we walked in, like, this is the way it's going to be. And we got the best takes that way because everybody, I feel like there's such an energy when you, in the first few takes of a song, you know, once everybody learns it and they know what they're doing, there's such an energy of like, oh man, I hope I don't fuck this up.
Yeah. 100%.
Well, there's such an energy, like a looseness there. And then once you do it too many times, like I think that it gets a little stiff.
Yeah.
And doesn't have that same magic. So I mean, really, that was kind of interesting. And I don't think I'd ever recorded with that many people at the same time either. I mean, there were times where it was like Luther was playing, you know, Amy LaVere was playing upright bass, PK was playing drums, Jimbo Mathis was on the Fender Rhodes, we had Lightning Malcolm on guitar, and then me at the same time. So that many people not screwing stuff at the same time, pretty awesome.
And it's kind of nice when you don't have to Pro Tools the shit out of a song because you can kind of feel it.
Yeah, that was what we were trying to avoid. I mean, it was, you know, it's kind of it's a really personal album, Belle of the West, and I just wanted to make sure those performances had that same kind of gutsy passion that the songs were, you know, the content that matched the content of the songs and the lyrics.
Well, I have to say it flows beautifully. Like, it's a great record. It's really nice to just kind of throw on and just relax to. Like, I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
No worries. So now with those songs, how are you, because I feel like they have such a contrasting energy between a lot of your work. How do you work those into your set? Like, do you kind of like, is it a really strategic process to kind of be like, okay, well, like this is where I can bring it down a bit and you know, this is where I can bring it back up?
You know, I think I'm gonna have to adapt some of this material because I've still got my Chills and Fever band on the road. We got a 6-piece horn section, or 6-piece band with a horn section and keys, and it's like, and I definitely the trick with putting out 2 records in 1 year is how do you showcase both albums without letting one fall behind the other?
Yeah,
and so we got to do it. The live show is gonna have to really marry these 2 things together. And, right now I don't have any plans on slowing down the Chills and Fever tour. So right now I'm pulling in the songs from Belle of the West and kind of adapting them to the live shows. So some of them are going to be electrified a little bit more. We were rehearsing yesterday and it's like, man, some of that, I feel like some of those songs are pretty ballsy. But, if I had it my way, I would be able to do 2 different shows on the road with 2 full bands.
That would be awesome.
My money and my band don't work that way. No, but eventually we're gonna have a big band and everything. Every part's gonna be able to be played. I'm working on that right now, putting that together. And just honestly, though, I want to have a show that's cohesive enough to fit these 2 albums in because I'm really proud of both, and I feel like they're so relevant to my sound right now. We just gotta find a way to make it work.
Yeah, Chills and Fever is a cool record. Like there aren't a lot of, I don't know. There isn't a lot of soul and R&B coming out, and it's kind of cool to hear, I don't know, newer artists take on it. Like the first thing that I pulled up was your cover of I Put a Spell on You. And
yeah.
Holy bejesus. I saw that cover and it just like literally just that solo that you play just melts my face off. It's ridiculous.
Oh, right on.
And you're so energetic and just fucking into it on stage. That's probably one of the things I'll link in the show notes to this. Like just everyone needs to watch that performance. Like, and just specifically on the Healers DVD, which is awesome because you had Reese Winans on there, and I loves me some Reese Winans. I think he's the best. Yeah, like I just that I don't know. You bring such a cool energy to that kind of music that it would be great if you can just kind of ride that wave because you're on the road for the next little while, right? Like well into next year.
Yeah, I mean we're really touring so much, and I mean we don't stop touring. We take like a week off here and there. We take we'll go out for 3 weeks, take a few days off, go out for a week, take a week off. It's so consistent. And my poor band is probably so damn tired. They're awesome, We're going to Europe here. Right now we're in Florida touring, and we're going on the blues cruise, and then we get off of that. We got a day off, and then we go to Europe for a month.
Jeez.
And then it's like we got a week off, and then we go out again. It's nuts, man. But I love it, and I love playing live, and really that's kind of how the world is now when you're a live touring act. You got to play. And it's the only, because it's just the way the music industry has changed so much in the last few years, and we play. And thankfully I love it, and we have so many great fans. I mean, we played Florida last night, and it's just awesome to see on a weeknight people coming out and packing clubs and packing theaters. We're really lucky we have a following. Honestly, like the internet has helped so much with that. I mean, you talked about that video, I Put a Spell on You. I mean, so many people discovered us from that.
Yeah.
And, it sucks because it's stuff they'll find a video from when I was like 19 years old, from the live bass era, something I'm not crazy proud of, and they'll fall in love with that, who I was back then. And then they'll come to the show, and I think everybody walks away feeling good about it, and they like what they hear. It's just, it's crazy how much that has helped us and exposed and given us exposure to the rest of the world.
Do you think it's kind of like a weird catch where, before, say 15, 20 years ago, where it was all album sales and it was maybe like 50-50 album sales and live shows, whereas to now, it's you have to tour more, but you have more outlets for people to discover. Do you think you kind of have a slight advantage in that regard?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think I might not have what I have right now if it wasn't for the web. I mean, there's so much, we're consistently getting after it in the touring world that, there's no denying it. We're going to be all over the place. But, it is a catch-22 because you can't control the content on the internet. So if there's something if I have a bad night, it's out there forever. And luckily, I hope we don't have too many bad nights. But
I was gonna say, I didn't see anything online. I watched all your festival sets, and you're doing okay.
We're super hard on ourselves, you know how that goes. But it is kind of crazy though, because you can't control all the content that gets out there, and sometimes you can't control what blows up. The video of me from being 19 is huge, and it's like, well, you guys should see my new stuff, and it's like, no, we like the old this one. But however you can get it, right? It's kind of great. It's a beautiful thing.
What's that? No press is bad press kind of story.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
It's that no press is bad press, or no such thing as bad press, however that saying goes.
Yep.
So now, jumping into guitar talk a little, I find it fascinating that you're playing a Gibson SG. So what led you to the SG? We'll talk about your signature guitar, which I have lots of questions about afterwards, but you don't see too many people rocking Gibson SGs in blues. In fact, I can only think of maybe 2 people. So what?
Like Derek Trucks guy who does.
I think Derek Trucks and probably Billy Gibbons are the only 2 that really pop into my mind. So what led you to pick that up?
Well, they're badass guitars. First and foremost, when I was a kid, I was so into ACDC, and so when it was like I was looking for a new guitar, I'm like, well, I always wanted an SG because Angus Young, he just was such a badass. So I know that's kind of like why I got it in the first place, just because of him. And then when I started thinking about all the wonderful SG players, like Derek Trucks got such a finesse on his, and he coaxes such sweet tones out of it, not just all really raw rock and roll shit. He really does. And he makes some beautiful tones on that guitar. So I felt like it was versatile. And it's lightweight, and it looks awesome. I got the Arctic white one.
Yeah, it looks pretty fucking great, especially for press photos. I'll be honest, not many times I'm like, oh, that's a good guitar for a press photo. But, like, your photos jump out, I think, significantly more based on that guitar.
I know, and I never thought it was a goofy-looking guitar. I think because I got so used to seeing it early on as a guitar player.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's badass. It's got devil horns. I just never really thought it looked goofy. I thought it was cool.
Oh, it's badass. Did you keep it stock?
I kept it stock.
Right on.
It sounds awesome. It was one of those, like, kind of a cheap buy, honestly, for a Gibson. It's not crazy expensive.
Yeah.
It's just sort of it's pretty nuts, actually. So I love my SG, and I've been kind of trying to step out of my comfort zone in the last year and a half with guitars, because I played my Delaney Fish. It's like a Fisher-Caster or whatever. It's the Samantha Fish official guitar or whatever. It's the wooden one with the fish F hole in it. It's like a semi-hollow Telecaster. Yeah, they're great. But I think I got kind of stuck in a tonal guitar rut with it, because that's all I played. And for a long time I wasn't using pedals. I am a huge fan of Tab Benoit. Like, when I started playing guitar at 19, I'd see him out at clubs, and he's just such a minimalist. He played thin line Telecasters and amps with no pedals.
Yeah.
He just got this amazing tone out of his hands. It was like, I want to be able to get tone out of my hands and not rely on a pedal.
Right.
So I started really working at that. For a few years, I was like pretty much like not using anything.
Yeah.
And I think that helped me a lot. But then when I started kind of feeling like, okay, all my songs are sounding the same to me, because I'm using the same guitar, the same treatment all the time. So I started putting some pedals up there, and there you go.
And you have a pretty expansive pedal board right now, don't you?
It's getting there. I'm trying to keep it down, because I really don't want to go that crazy with it.
You can go a little crazy. I'm a huge fan and advocate of effects pedal use, so I'm all for, like, bringing that giant flight case of pedals on the road. I think it looks badass, personally.
Oh, it does. It does. And I like I said, I started finding pedals and actually using the pedal for an effect and not so much a crutch. I mean, I totally did that when I was younger. But now it's like I'm getting into, like, the pogs and the octaves and buzzes. actually using them for their designated effects. And it's cool, that it's really fun. Like guitar playing is fun again. And, I'm enjoying it.
Do you find like that's something, I mean, you've clearly done it with songwriting, but with guitar playing that like you constantly kind of have to keep it fun?
I do. I think you really have to keep challenging yourself. And I mean, I change it every night.
Yeah.
A little bit. Well, I mean, I try to. If I feel like I'm playing the same line over and over again, it kind of starts to drive me crazy, and I'm like, oh God, I gotta push myself and do something a little different. And every once in a while, you come up with something really cool. Sometimes it's like dog shit, but
yeah.
Sometimes you go with something cool and you teach yourself something. I mean, that's really how I learned how to play guitar was, because I'm self-taught.
Which is
in a
nuts,
lot of ways.
By the way. It's just ridiculous.
Well, I had a few lessons here and there. Some people kind of pushed me and nudged me in the right direction. But I picked up a lot of it just by sound and feel.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to go back and listen to my videos. It's like a football player watching their stuff. It feels kind of like vain, but I'm really just watching it to, hear what it actually sounds like. Because I know what I think it sounds like.
Right.
It can be totally different.
So do you find yourself, like, are there players that you see that you kind of go like, oh, I really like that, I want to try something like that?
It changes from, I mean, I'm influenced by a lot of different stuff. There's not one person I consistently go back to or anything. And it changes all the time. I might just see somebody who they're doing something a little different and it's inspiring. But, I guess as far as new guys go, like when I started listening, like alternative rock is awesome. When I started listening to the radio, it was, I was really into Jack White. I thought he came up with some of the coolest tones and just riff rock,
Yeah.
He was inspired by all the guys I was inspired by. I was like, I should pay attention to him because he's doing some really cool shit.
Yeah.
And I always go back to kind of the North Mississippi players when I start getting a little too far out, because they brought it back to a groove and a melody, which to me is the most important thing. That was a cool thing Luther Dickinson taught me when I was in the studio with him. He's like, you don't need all that flashy stuff because it doesn't really say anything. As if you can get them on their feet with a melody and you can build around a melody, it's so much more powerful than, all the little, widdly, flashy bullshit
Yeah.
that you're trying to put out. So
that's great advice. So before I forget, what amps are you using on the road right now?
I'm using Category 5 amps.
Right on.
Yeah, I love them.
Do you have a deal with them by any chance?
I do.
Right on.
I do. I've been working with Don for a few years. But he's got me hooked up with. I'm really fortunate. I got Delaney guitars, and I got Category 5 amps, and both those guys have treated me so well. I'm very lucky.
That's awesome. So what are your plans for, like, besides touring for the next year? I just actually, while we were talking, I saw you're coming close to me. You're going to be in the Toronto area sometime next year. So I have to do a follow-up.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like so much touring. Like we're just really focusing on these 2 albums and putting together a really wonderful show. And, next year there's a lot of things I'd like to do. It's just finding the time to do them.
Right.
We had this idea to start a label, Wild Heart Records and everything. And that's definitely coming. It's in the midst of all the touring. It's finding the time to do it and do it well.
Yeah.
Because anything I do, I want to be able to dive in and fully invest myself and do it really well. So, there's a lot of things I want to do. It's just time permitting, but I'm also writing for the next record. I plan to go and hopefully do some writing in Nashville next year and work with some songwriters and do some studio time and start putting the next one together. The next step, the next phase.
That's awesome. Do you think you're like, how do I word this properly? Have you learned that releasing 2 albums in 1 year is great, or that you might not do that again for a while?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if I'll ever do it again. I don't know if I'll ever have the team of people who will allow me to do that again. I have such a great label and manager, and just people around me who are like enthusiastic about creativity and art, and they believe in me fully.
Yeah.
And I'm in a really beautiful spot right now. It's a lot of work to put out 2 in a year.
I would imagine so.
We had, between Wild Heart and I think we put out Wild Heart in 2015. So there's 2 years between, and we made both of these albums. I don't know if we'll ever have the time to do it again. We'll see. We'll see what the future holds. But it's definitely been fun, and it's been a growing experience for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I've taken up enough of your time. Are there any, besides your equipment endorsers, is there anyone you want to kind of shout out, or any thank yous or pitches for the new album? Where can everyone find the new album on November 3rd?
They can get it on Amazon or my website. iTunes will have it at the shows. It's going to be everywhere. So anyway. Hey, man, it was nice talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, you too. Honestly, you're awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right, take care.